Hello, I'm Brett Knowles from PM Squared Consulting. This is the first of a 7-part series that walks you through planning best practices targeted to large power distribution organizations. Now, it's important to note that best practices are entirely based on what your organization needs and actually can execute. So consider this video series as a planning smorgasbord, and it's your job to pick out which of these could add the most value to your organization with a minimum headache. Now, this video series is really divided into 3 major sections. This one, in which I'll be characterizing the common FP&A challenges. The next 5, which will go through each of 5 different quick wins that you can implement within weeks and deliver benefits immediately to your organization. And then the last section, in which we'll describe best practices, long-term solutions, and the overall benefits from these quick wins and longer-term solution. So let's plow forward into the common FP&A challenges. As I said, this series is targeted towards significant power distribution organizations, and the quote case that I'm going to be using throughout this is based on the average or conglomerated results of our 5 largest power distribution organizations. And so to characterize it, we've just called it Acme Power, and on average it has this characteristic: about $2 billion in capital investments per year, about $400 million in maintenance investments, shareholder return of 8 to 10%, about $8 billion earned through base rates, about 60,000 miles worth of pipe, and about 4 million customers. Now, the planning process itself in organizations like this are typified as follows. There's a bunch of work that's done by the strategy plan, further work by financial plans, and then it's punted to product groups or parts of the organization. Now, the way it actually works is typically the strategy plan is developed and punted over to the financial planning people. They work on it and then punt it to each of the product groups or departments. And it's those product groups and departments or regions whose job it is to respond to those strategic imperatives with their drilled down plan. So that has a bunch of implications on the planning process. So the typical planning process looks like this. There are about 6 iterations of this cycle before we actually get agreement and final sign-off on the plan. Those 6 iterations take on average 18 weeks to complete. And in those 18 weeks, we consume about 30% of senior leadership's time. That equates to roughly 25 man-years per $1 billion of revenue. Or if you tried to dollarize that, about $1 million for every $1 billion planned. On average, there are 9 different systems that we're pulling data from. And this results in incredibly low quality data with all sorts of dimensionality issues. What we also discover is even though the FP&A methodology is clear, managers typically do not follow those planning rules and make up their own. And this results in incredibly high stress for the FP&I staff, and that in turn causes very high turnover. Ultimately, the plan is obsolete before the actual physical year begins. So that's the scenario that we're trying to do better than, or we've got some quick wins on improving. As you can see, this is probably a pretty easy target to hit, because this is not the type of process any of us would be proud for designing. In the following videos, we're going to outline 5 quick wins that organizations can immediately take with short-term and immediate payback. And they are: 1, how to create shared spreadsheets; 2, simplifying the planning model; 3, eliminating the back and forth cycles which happen; 4, reduce the number of people in the planning process. And 5, become agile, monitor, and react. And if you hit these quick wins, we see benefits like a 30% reduction in the cost to plan, about a 60% reduction in errors in the plan, about a 30% reduction in the time required to plan, and about a 25% faster process. So stay tuned to the quick wins and the longer term solution to see how you can achieve these benefits.